Welcome to Second Act Podcast. My name is Justin Sims. I'm here with my co-host Michael Stone and our very special guest today, Hannah. Hannah, welcome.
Hey, thanks Justin for having me. Thanks Michael.
Thanks for being here. So Hannah, today we're going to dive into the story that makes up your life. Where are you from?
I'm from West Palm Beach, Florida, which I know is kind of rare.
Born and raised Floridian.
Born and raised Floridian,
One of the few. So mom and dad, obviously it took both pieces to make you. So tell me about mom and dad.
Yeah, my mom's a therapist, which a lot of people think is pretty interesting when I tell them that. She's like a sex therapist, psychoanalyst, hypnotherapist, the list goes on. And then my dad was an interior designer and architect, and he actually passed away when I was 9. So I was raised with them. My parents married and divorced 2 times, and it's kind of funny. So that happened, and then when I was 9, my dad passed away, and I went to really good schools as a kid. I had a really great education. I had a very supporting family, a lot of half-siblings that I'm really close with, and I was fortunate they took me around the world. My parents also did as well. My dad would travel to different countries to learn about design and
for his work and stuff.
Yeah, things like that. So I was able to travel a lot as a kid. So I had a culturally diverse background growing up.
I bet it sounds like it. So you had an artist and a real thinker in the house. So when you go to your mom and you're like, Mom, I have this problem I want to talk to. Do you have to classify it in a certain department for your mom? You're like, I need some hypnotherapy help there. Mom, I need some sex counseling. Like, how do you...
Oh, that would be so weird.
That would be.
So what my mom says is, like, she doesn't work for free.
So you're like, here's my fee, Mom, help me out?
No, it's not like that, but, like, when outside of work, she's not really trying to psychoanalyze everybody. So she kind of was just, I don't know what to compare it to, but it felt like she was a pretty normal mom. She knew a lot about the development of psychology, so I know that she tried to teach me in those ways based on where I was at my age. And then also she's very spiritual, so she introduced me a lot of spiritual concepts. She's teaches Course in Miracles, which is like this really cool book about like choosing love instead of fear. So I was raised in like a pretty cool environment where there was like a lot of spiritual growth, a lot of scientific education, and then like my dad was also a very creative artist, so I had like an introduction to a lot of things at a young age. But then there was also like a lot of trauma in my story as well, so it's like beautiful life, also still trauma, and I ended up struggling with addiction.
So a real paradox is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Thus far in your story. What you mentioned trauma. Now we're skipping around a little bit, but your father's death. 9-year-old girl, daddy's girl.
Yeah.
Very much so. You traveled with your father. You admired his work. Let's talk about his passing a little bit.
Yeah.
What was that? What was that like?
So before I can even talk about his passing, my mom had cancer when I was about 4 or 5. So I knew what cancer was at a young age, and I remember before my mom found out she had cancer, I sometimes would sleep in her bed, and I woke up one night and I said, Mom, I had like a bad dream. She's like, well, what was your dream? And I said, I don't understand it, but like you were going into the ground and we were all there. And she like took that as a warning sign, so she ended up going to the doctor and found out like she had stage 4 cancer. She had surgery. So like between like 4 and 5, I was acting out really bad because my parents had just had a divorce and my mom was in the hospital and she didn't want me to see her like that, so I didn't get to spend that much time with her. So that was really traumatic. My sister actually ended up coming down and living with me. She was older than I was, and kind of being
to help.
Huge support there. So fortunately my mom survived, but I already knew what cancer was and I already had that fear coming in. So then when my dad got it when I was 9, and my dad was older, so he was always worried about his health anyway, just being that he was older, and he was always concerned that he wouldn't be able to watch me grow up. And then being when I was 9, he had cancer, so I knew what it was, and I was like really, there was a lot of fear around it.
Yeah, because you had built this monster up in your head.
Yeah.
You had this prophetic dream as a child of your mom's death that saved your mom, then a cancer scare, so you knew. Yeah,
it was so overwhelming that I actually kind of think I just shut down because the fear was so overwhelming.
So what's the chances of a kid with 2 parents both getting cancer?
Yeah,
that's kind of bizarre. To me it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the statistics on it, and I actually never even really thought about it that way because it was just my life. It's just what I...
Yeah, it was your norm.
At 9, you don't really understand anything. Like, your world is your reality, and you don't think, oh, well, Susie Joe down the street's life isn't like this. You kind of just think everyone just deals with these things.
Yeah, this is my reality. And when you're a kid, your world is the world. So 9 years old, I mean, I know from my personal experience, my father passed away to cancer. Diagnosed in March, he was gone by December. How long was your process with your dad?
Yeah, it wasn't long at all. My parents were separated at the time, and I remember my mom let my dad come and live with her when he was passing, and I kind of didn't believe that he was going to pass because my mom had recovered. So I was like, my dad will just get better too.
So you got this hope that you're going to hold on to.
It wasn't even a hope. I just thought that's what happened. Like, I just thought that's what would happen. So when he ended up passing, he had come in. He was staying at the guest room at our house. And I remember at first he was like my normal dad. He was just like, I know he was rushing a little bit more. I remember him bringing me into his room and telling me like he was so proud of me because I got good grades that report card. And like within 2 weeks, like he wasn't talking anymore, and it was really sad. And sorry, I'm choking up a little bit.
No, it's okay.
But, I remember him bringing me into his room, or not him bringing me into his room, but I went into his room, and at 9 years old, I had like the emotional maturity to be able to say like, I understand, Dad, it's okay if you can't stay. And then he actually passed that night.
I know, like with my father's death, he waited till we were not around. So it sounds like you kind of gave your dad permission. Like, you know, your little girl's gonna be okay. You can go ahead, Dad. And that's what you did, and he listened. Wow, that's powerful. So that obviously gave you an emotional maturity, because I heard someone say years ago that when someone loses someone real close to them, they age 10 years inside.
Yeah, growing up, like, everyone, like, all my mom's and my dad's friends, like, they always would say, like, I had, like, this a wise soul. Like, at 4 years old, people were telling me that. So.
Well, you're having dreams about your mother's cancer that made her go and look into it. I mean, so you were a special kid.
I'm not, like, I don't really think about it, but now that I'm talking about it right now, it's like, oh, wow, yeah, that actually is kind of strange.
Yeah, you were like this little
to me,
oracle
it's just a
child.
memory.
So,
I wouldn't go that far, dude, but...
It sells. She's magical.
So, okay, so you obviously, that was a hugely traumatic experience in anyone's life. You're 9 years old, you tell your dad, it's okay, Dad, go ahead. You can pass. So your dad passes. Your parents are already separated, so what did that circumstance do behavior-wise to you? Because you had mentioned you were acting out before during the divorce when you were 4 or 5. So now you've seen the most traumatic thing in your life up until that point. Early. Most people don't go through that until way later.
Yeah.
You went through what I went through at 35 at 9 years old.
Yeah, and I think it's almost... it's different. So having it happen at 9, you won't be so initially upset about it. You won't have that same emotional impact because your brain is still developing. So the magnitude of it it's hard. You don't have the emotional skills to cope and understand it. So it just becomes part of the process. Versus when you're 30, having it happen, you understand, so you can feel those and grieve those feelings. For me, I didn't understand it, so it just became part of the way my brain developed and how I looked at the world for the rest of my life, without having the skills to see that. So it was just everything I did, whether it be like the friends I made, the people I associated with, the decisions I made, how I worked, hard I tried in school, were all filtered through that lens, so to speak.
Well said. So let's fast forward a little bit. So now we're middle school, high school time. What was Hanna like in that era?
Yeah, well, even before middle school or high school, after my dad passed, I started acting out really bad. I also have a few learning disabilities, so I didn't do the best in school in terms of staying focused. Accompany that with some trauma. It's really hard to stay focused in a sit-still focused environment. So started drinking to cope with like my own happiness at
what
11.
age? At 11.
Yeah.
So when you say acting out, you know, cherry bombs in the toilet at school, drinking at school, like what?
Yeah, I was drinking at school, sneaking out at night.
So 11 is what, 5th grade, 6th grade?
5th, 6th grade, yeah. So I had my first drink 11. Obviously, I didn't drink and like immediately start doing hard drugs and like sneaking out.
Right.
But like by 13, I was sneaking out, drinking. I was hiding liquor all over my house.
So would you say it was like a 2-year recreational period, like a experimental?
I don't know if maybe experimental. It was more of a when can I have access to it issue, since like you have to find someone sick enough to sell you alcohol or give you alcohol.
Right, at 11. Yeah.
My parents
I'm wearing like a
didn't
safety patrol thing.
I think that this would be some kind of a alert or a wake-up call for people who might be listening who have 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds.
Who have gone through an extreme emotional situation.
It's kind of bizarre to think about it, like for me, but I always tell everybody, once they're 13, like, don't listen and believe a word they say. Your kids.
Well, 13, she's saying that she was already, the engine was started at 11. Once she had the sauce, when do I get more syrup? Then 13, it's off to the races. So 13, where we're at, you're like, my name is Jack Daniels. By 13, where's the hard stuff? Like, what happened?
Yeah. I remember I went and visited a family relative, and they had alcohol, and I took a Sprite bottle and poured a little bit of every booze they had in a bottle and took it home with me on the plane so I'd have access to it later. So like I was doing that.
And you somehow stomached through that?
Yeah, it was.
You already had the good like sneaking like ability at 13 or 12. I'm sure I didn't have
she's
it
sitting
by
there.
then.
Me neither, but she's sitting there going, I'll try
no.
some of this and some of that. Like,
Yeah.
but she'd been
She had
training
the
for 2
hiding
years.
going on. Yeah.
She'd been swimming in the dark web of manipulation for 2 years already. So 13, she was like me at 18.
Yeah, me too.
So you're
17.
So you're making the worst Long Island iced tea of all time
Yeah.
in a Sprite bottle for the plane.
I probably put wine in there, Jack Daniels, some vodka. It was
A little bit of
disgusting.
sake.
It was actually really hard to drink, but it didn't stop me. So.
So okay,
Yeah.
so you were that kid. So then, what other kind of stuff that obviously, the first thing that we lose when we start using is our judgment. So your judgment's out the window on a pretty regular basis at 13. What kind of other bad doors did that open?
Yeah, I mean, I put myself in a lot of dangerous situations. I was sexually assaulted at 13, 14.
Do you think that was a situation that would have been avoided if you had not been using drugs and alcohol?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Most likely. I think when you drink and when I drink, I do things I normally wouldn't do. I go places I normally wouldn't go. I say things I normally wouldn't say.
Trust people that you wouldn't trust, etc. So that little
just
girl
trust
that's out there,
Mm-hmm.
that's like, I like to smoke weed and drink on the weekends, and I'll try this drug every now and then, and I'm hanging out with these boys.
Yeah.
What would you tell that kid right now? Because you were that kid.
Yeah.
And it got you into some bad situations.
Well, and I thought, at that age, I thought that I had everything under control. I thought I knew what I was doing. People needed to trust me more, have more faith in me, and like just let me do whatever I wanted. And I thought people were just trying to control me. I didn't realize that like people were trying to protect me, and I thought I knew it all.
So if I'm one of the people, let's figuratively tell you're 13-year-old Hannah. Here's 2 people in your life that are concerned about you, and listen, I'm really concerned. Your behavior, your blah blah blah, all these issues, all these red flags, and you're going, I need more space. You need to give me more room. I'm an adult. I've got this. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
How does someone in that situation decipher the difference between someone that's really genuinely, selflessly trying to help them versus trying to control them? Because that's all you heard when they were trying to help you.
Yeah. Well, I think anyone who cares enough to go through the conflict of telling you that probably cares, because it's not easy to like try and dissuade someone who's already set on their mind to something, but if they actually care about you, they'll put in the energy to do so. And I mean, the biggest thing I can say is always keep an open mind. Like, as I've grown, my beliefs about everything have continued to change, and I look back and I don't have any regrets because I know that I'm where I'm at in life, and like every experience I've overcome has been an opportunity to help another and grow as a person. But just always don't shut anyone down. Like, it's just a good practice in life to have, no matter what, is to always be willing to listen. And maybe if you listen, you'll actually hear something and realize, okay, maybe I need to reconsider my decisions.
So listen more, talk less.
See, and I would say there's no 13 or 14 or 15-year-old who's going to listen to a word you say anyway. If their mind is made up that their life is theirs and they're an adult now, that's a waste of energy. Either put them in military school or figure something else out, because talking to a teenager like that, they're not going to listen to a word
So you can
say.
tell them a lot,
They
but
need
you
to learn
can't
their
tell
own
them
damn
anything.
lessons.
You can
Yeah.
talk to them a lot, but
They're
you
not
can't tell
going to
them
believe
anything.
any of that.
Okay,
That's what I would say.
so let's get back to where she's at though. So she's using drugs, she's drinking, she's reckless at school. You're putting yourself in. You're really. It sounds like you're treating life like an extreme sport.
Mm-hmm.
You're putting yourself in these extremely dangerous situations. You're sexually assaulted at a young age. What other things happened?
Yeah, so I actually hadn't used drugs yet. I was just a drinker.
Just drinking.
Yeah. And I ended up getting caught, and my mom and her boyfriend sent me to a wilderness program in Minnesota.
What's a wilderness program?
So it's basically like intense therapy in the woods. So I went in January. It was -20. We lived in tents, cut firewood, and then I went through workbooks and looked at how my actions, my behavior were affecting me. And I did really good for a little while after that. I think about 5 months. I was on the right track. And I remember I was in like a DARE program in school, and they talked about drugs and alcohol. And like, I remember learning that like alcohol is the most used drug in the United States, but a lot of people don't consider it a drug because it's legal. It's still a drug, just like caffeine and sugar and all those other things, but the effects of it are very detrimental. A lot of people died due to drinking and driving and things like that. But it was acceptable. It was okay. They just would teach us not to do it until we were older. But like they would talk about drugs like weed or any other one, and they would show us pictures like if you smoke weed, like you're gonna get this growth on your face and you're gonna die, and like try and scare you of smoking weed. And I remember I smoked weed for the first time. I was like, these guys lied to me.
Like there's nothing.
Like this honestly, like I'm
bullshit.
just pretty hungry. Like this doesn't matter at all. Like so I was like, I like weed, and I honestly I liked it even more because when I drank I would get really sick. I didn't get sick. It was so much
You mean
better.
when you mixed
I thought.
the two, or when you just smoked?
Yeah, both. Like if I drink I got sick. If I smoked and drank I probably wouldn't get sick. And if I smoked, like I had a lot less problems. And it wasn't what I thought it was. Like it wasn't the magnitude that people made it out to be. But what I didn't realize is, one, it has an effect on my brain development, which okay. But two, it was making me comfortable and complacent. So if I failed a test, I didn't care. If I like all the things that mattered to me, it just like I would smoke weed and it wouldn't matter anymore. I wouldn't feel emotionally upset about something, and it would make me complacent and comfortable. And what I've learned now as being a sober adult is discomfort is there for a reason. Like if I step on a nail and it hurts because I need to get my foot off the nail. So if I'm in a place of discomfort in my life, I need to feel and go through that so that I can make that change to be where I want and need to be in life. And weed just would make me comfortable no matter what. And eventually I would make more and more decisions that I didn't feel good about, but I could smoke and drink and not care about
And
them.
write it off or justify it.
Yeah, just push it back and not feel it, and just light another blunt and not have to worry about it. And then eventually, like for me, it was a gateway drug because like I just had less and less cares. I did more and more drugs.
Inhibitions lower and lower.
Yeah, my grades slipped more and more.
Started giving less F's. Right.
Yeah.
So
0 F's given.
0 F's given at the time. So what you're saying is that discomfort equals growth.
And not in every situation. Obviously, if someone's like hurting you physically and you're
Right,
in
that kind of discomfort. Hannah's punching me in the face. I'm growing. Yeah, no, that's not that discomfort.
But like sometimes I feel uncomfortable in life, and sometimes I have an anxiety about where I'm in life, and that's a warning sign that maybe it's time to make a change, and maybe it's time to try something new, or like go to that next level of emotional or spiritual growth.
So underneath discomfort, what you're saying is a lesson.
Yeah.
There's a lesson there. So if you're just comfortable, you're not growing, you're not learning the lessons.
Sometimes you're comfortable, and sometimes being comfortable is a lesson, you know, but also like if I like do feel a discomfort, I don't judge it as bad or wrong. I just think, okay, why do I feel this way? And then I can peel that onion and see what's coming up and what I need to heal. And
What am I supposed to be figuring out about this right now?
I wish that there were more programs in school that kind of focused on what do you want out of life and what are your goals, and like let's create a plan to help you build something that you feel good about, versus like let's focus on all the things you shouldn't do and then hopefully you'll figure out the rest.
Yeah, that's like putting a kid in a room and saying, you can touch all these buttons, but not this red button.
Mm-hmm.
My kids are going to touch that red button every day, all day.
Exactly. And that was the struggle for me. So I continued to experiment and didn't have any huge problems until consequences started getting worse and worse. I got physically assaulted and tasered in a drug.
So when you have them build up, you were saying that they built, let's get to that, but let's say how they build up. The consequences started getting more. So how did they start? Give me just a random example.
I was drinking and driving, I had a mailbox.
You ran into, you damaged the car a little bit.
Yeah.
Then what's the next level up from that?
It kind of just went from 0 to 100 really fast. So it was like a lot of those situations, getting in fist fights, violence, and then I guess the point where I was in a drug deal, it went bad. I got tasered in the neck, robbed, someone tried to steal my car, and I left that situation like, oh my God.
The dealer tasered you?
Yeah.
So, wow. So you got tasered in the neck by a drug dealer.
Yeah, and I also at the same time I have sold drugs in the past as well. So like it was like a way to feed my habit. So I was like, not only did I become addicted to drugs, I became addicted to money and a lifestyle, and I'm really not equipped for that at all. Like to the core, I'm really sensitive and like
a sweet person, not this gangster girl that's gonna.
And I had this hard exterior and shut down, and I would pretend I had no feelings, and thought I meant that I was strong and cool.
And so you also found an identity. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Here I am. I'm gonna be this. I'm gonna be this character, this badass girl. But inside you were lost.
Exactly. Yeah.
What kind of drugs were you selling?
Mostly just like weed and Xanax and the ones I would use.
So you were dabbling in your own stash. So then you're
like my goal is just to break even.
So I can use for free. And so that in your mind you're a successful dealer. I can use for free, and I get all these friends that come over to my house that seem to care about me.
Yeah, exactly. They went away right as soon as I got sober.
Take me to that moment. What was that moment like?
So when the guy tried to steal my car and it went really bad, I left that scenario thinking like, oh my God, thank God I'm alive. I'm so grateful to be alive. And I realized I need to start making a change. So on my own, I was like, well, I'll just drink. I won't do drugs. Then when I would drink, I would end up doing drugs. So, or if I did drugs, I'd end up drinking. Twofold process. And then I couldn't get sober, so I ended up going to recovery fellowship, trying to like get sober. Wasn't able to do it on my own.
What is recovery?
Is this still in high school?
Yeah. Well, this was in high school, my senior year. I was 16 at the time. And I had switched from a private school to a public school, so I was able to get ahead. And they put me in some college classes, so I was able to graduate early.
So you graduated?
Yeah, barely. I had one class to pass, and I was at a D in it. If I got a D, I wouldn't be able to graduate. I went and took my final, and I basically studied for 3 days straight without sleeping, using a certain drug, and got a really good grade on my final, and I passed. And I had not applied to any colleges because I just had this huge fear of failure. I just thought I wasn't good enough.
Mix that with the no ambition.
Yeah, exactly.
So no colleges to go to.
And got by the skin of her teeth.
Yeah, you went to the Recovery Fellowship College.
Yeah, exactly.
School of the hard knocks. So you go to a Recovery Fellowship. What's that moment like when you're about to walk into the door of this fear of the unknown? Oh my God, I'm at the bottom.
It wasn't like that for me at
all.
No? No, I was raised in the rooms. Like both my parents were in recovery. I went to different meetings my whole life. So like I kind of knew all along that it was going to get to that point. I just thought I had more time.
So you were putting off the inevitable. So in your head as you're going, I'm going to eventually get to those rooms.
Yeah. I remember I was at a club one time and it was like, all your alcoholics put your hands in the air. And I was like, I'm an alcoholic. And what am I?
Woo, yeah!
Yeah.
They finally called my name.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I knew it was coming. I just didn't think the problems would get there. And it wasn't just the physical problems, it was emotionally. I was just at a low point. Like I didn't know, but like drugs, like and alcohol, a lot of them are depressants, and I was really depressed and like I hated life, and I had no purpose and no goals and nothing. I was,
All right, so
like,
pause
miserable.
that
You didn't have to
moment.
go to detox or anything. You went like straight to meetings.
Well, I didn't stay sober at first.
Right.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
When you're in that place you were just talking about, that dark place, give me an example of what the inner dialogue, the inner monologue in Hanna was like.
Yeah, it
What
was
are you
like,
telling yourself at that time
it
in
was
life?
like, well, maybe drugs and alcohol are your problem, and then it was like, no, you're just a normal 17-year-old trying to have fun. Like, everyone needs to leave you alone. If everyone just did what you wanted and let you do what you wanted to do, you would have no problems in life. And then it would be like, well, something really bad would happen, and then it would be like, oh man, I should never drink again. Then it would be like, oh no, that's stupid. Why are you thinking that way? Stop trying to blame alcohol on all your problems. Just get your life together. You'll be fine. Figure out what you want to do. Get a purpose. You'll be fine. And then it would be like I couldn't find purpose because I would end up drinking, and then it would be like, oh, I can just hang out with my friends and not drink, and then I'd be drunk because that didn't work. I had to change everything. I changed where I lived. I changed who I hung out with, the things I did, and my sister actually, she reached her hand out and offered me to come live with her in North Florida, and that's where I got sober. I didn't go to detox because I was young, so my accessibility to some things was kind of based around school. I hadn't completely thrown my life away, so I would have like 3 days where I'd use heavily, then I maybe not use as heavily for 1 or 2 days.
Recover for a couple days?
Yeah, but I definitely, I did not feel good when I came down. And emotionally, I didn't have my coping skills anymore. Like, that's how I coped with everything I felt in life. So I was really, really angry.
Yeah, you were out of your normal answers. You said something real interesting. You said you changed all this stuff. Because you wanted everything to change, you changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
When you were going through that inner dialogue just now, it sounded to me, listening to it, like there was two entities in her. Like the good and the bad.
There's two entities in everybody.
Right, but didn't you hear that when she was telling me? It was like the devil and the angel on the shoulder in the old cartoons, and you're listening to like both.
Mm-hmm.
No, they don't know what they're talking about. Listen, this is the better way. No, they're full of shit. No. Like,
I always like to say it was like my spiritual being versus the physical world. So like the physical world is very immediate, instant gratification. Like what car can I buy? What thing can I do to make me feel good right away? And then like for my spiritual being, it's like a commitment to a process that isn't instant. And like I have to quiet down and slow down to hear that voice and get that guidance. Versus when I'm only in the physical, it's like next thing. Where am I gonna go? What am I gonna do? What am I gonna get?
so you're always in this battle between the spirit and the flesh.
Well,
We all are.
in active addiction, like there was no battle. I was simply living for myself, and I was so like accustomed to it that I didn't even notice there was anything spiritual going on. I probably would have told you I was an atheist. I had no connection to anything. It was just like, this is what I'm doing. And when I would have I would have these moments of clarity, like getting robbed, where I'd be like, oh my God. Like, I don't know why, because I would have told you I was atheist, but I had these God moments that would just come up as like...
But the third word you said was, oh my God, oh
Yeah.
my God. The atheist reaching out to God.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of it was I was just mad because of everything I had gone through. So I figured I would just create this own path for myself and like middle finger up to like whatever else there was out there. And it just wasn't working though.
So you find this new design of living.
Mm-hmm.
You buy into it at first, right? Then did you get it the first time, or?
When I moved, yes. Once I moved and changed everything, I ended up staying sober, and I'm still sober today, and that was July 21st of 2011.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're not supposed to ask a woman that. How old are you now?
24.
So I just did it. 24 and you've got 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So 17 years old.
Yeah, it's crazy. I felt really lucky.
It's unbelievable. I think it's something that sets you apart. There's a lot of reasons, but that's another one. And you've become a pillar in the community because you're not just another person in a meeting. I've gotten a chance to get to know you a little bit over the last year and a half or so. And I've watched you from afar on social media and stuff, and you've got a lot of big things that you're doing. You're really a pillar in this community. You're your biggest critic, so don't do that. But from a spectator. I see you. I see you
That means a lot.
doing big things. What are those things?
Yeah. Well, I went to college, and in college I did a lot of service in the recovery community, and I had only had experience with like really awesome treatment centers, and I saw a lot of people get better, and I helped a lot of people at them. And then I got offered a job at a center when I was in college. I had no desire to work at recovery. It was just like a part-time gig while I finished my degree.
How did you do in school, by the way?
Yeah, I got straight A's.
So sober student
Yeah,
versus using Hanna.
yeah,
Not even the same.
yeah, totally different. I got really good grades, and my brain was allowed to develop, and I noticed that it was easier to process information when I was sober as well.
Sure.
So I ended up taking a job at a recovery center, and it wasn't like it was basically what you hear about on TV. Is one of the worst, and I was so shocked because all I had ever experienced was really good centers, and I was like, why are people sending their children here? I didn't really know anything about what was going on in the industry with all the centers popping up. So I researched, and there was like nowhere to find real information about treatment.
You were trying to research. When you say you were trying to research, you were trying to look into why is this a bad place?
Yeah,
and
why
people
they
are still
filling this-
sending people here.
Yeah, I didn't
To
understand.
get better, it's hurting them.
Yeah, exactly. And then I realized that like you would go online and you can buy reviews, and there was all these review platforms that were owned by other treatment centers.
Wait a minute, you can buy reviews. So if I had a bad treatment center, let's say,
Yeah.
I can go buy good reviews?
Yeah.
Well, that's
Same in
convenient.
any business.
I didn't even
Yeah.
know
The
that.
same, absolutely.
So there's all these lies. There's this gray area where all these people are dancing, this false BS. Not even
It's a
real.
money area.
Okay, so they're
It's
trying
not
to.
gray.
They're
It's
selling
like
you a
I've
lemon.
said before, you give addicts a way to make money, like happened in South Florida, and this is where you end up. I mean, it's mostly cleaned up now, but you've given drug addicts who will think of the shadiest way, and I know this because I will always first thought is going to be the shadiest, easiest way to make money, and you end up with 400 easy to open treatment centers, bilking insurance money, and not offering the correct and adequate care. It's all really, this whole thing is because you gave a bunch of addicts a way to make easy money.
And then there's a
Really.
ripple effect of all the bad
Absolutely.
decisions, and you're sitting there as a kid going there, looking online going, or not as a kid, but as an employee, new in recovery going, there's no information, and all the information that's out there is not real.
Yeah. No, literally, like what happened was people came to Florida for treatment to some legitimate facilities, and a lot of them were street kids who had a hustle, and they were like, oh, I could get a license and have a criminal background, and it's really easy to open up a treatment center. So they just hire a therapist and pay some fake clinician to be
Like
their
what he's
medical
saying,
director.
get rich quick scheme.
Absolutely. That's exactly the process that takes place. You go to treatment, you figure out most of the addicts that come down here are really smart in ways to make money, and I know because I did the same thing. Luckily, I had other people in my life controlling any shady thought I would come up with. I mean, look, my wife is a therapist. She's on top of all that shit. And then I'm Sarah, my daughter. I would always come up with good shady ways to like make easier money in treatment, but that shit always got shut down. They didn't listen.
But you
to
also
anyone.
have those people, those stable people in your life that
Yeah.
are a filter to
Oh,
not
yeah.
let Mike just
They were like,
run
anything
rampant.
he thinks about has got to be fucking shady. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
So what does Hanna do when you have this information you've got?
Yeah. So what I did was I started to learn about treatment. I created a website that I believe is like an anti-client brokering website, and if it's utilized correctly, people can go on there and learn about treatment. And there's no 1-800 number. We're not affiliated with any center, so you can just go learn information.
So you're completely independent.
Yeah.
What is that
Independent.
website?
It's a Warehab. So like where rehab, Warehab.
So WHEREHAB
Yeah.
dot
So
com.
did you know programming, or what was your skill set at the time when you got the idea for this?
Yeah, my skill set, being that my mom was a clinician, I had a pretty good understanding of that, just from osmosis, and I worked in the center, and I'm a younger person, good with computers, and I had have a lot of friends that are really good with computers. So my friend made me a website, and it kind of just took off from there. I feel like I just felt this calling to pursue something, and it kind of just took off.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what projected it, but.
So here's your life. You've been through some trauma. You start doing the right thing. You start seeing these really good outcomes from you feeding this. They're doing the right thing. So you keep doing this, and this grows. You keep doing this, and this grows. And now here you are. You're the owner and creator of Warehab. Now, when I try to describe Hannah's business to other people, I'll tell you what I tell them, and it's probably terrible. So please correct me and tell the viewers much from the source. But I tell them, well, it's like Zagat, like a Zagat review for like restaurants, Zagat surveys, but for rehabs and detoxes. So when people want to know what a good place is, they can go on the app and they can see all these reviews for all these different places.
Kind of, yeah, like clients can go and read reviews, and every email that is associated with review goes under, like, we review them to like assure that you're getting real reviews. And your clients can go on there, good and bad reviews happen, but we try and focus on what is the majority of people saying. So it is a platform where you can read reviews, that's part of it, but another part of it is you can read articles about different practices that are happening in the industry. You can learn about what each level of care is, what insurance the center accepts, where they're located, what gender specific versus co-ed treatment means, and all these different things that you may not even know. Like being an outsider coming in, when someone starts talking about inpatient, IOP, PHP,
yes.
MAT, EMDR, you're like, what? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, what does all this
idea.
mean?
But like, you click a button and it gives you a brief description.
So it's like an educational tool to the fellow morons like myself that can go and learn a little something.
Exactly, and we are launching an app because reviews are cool and information is great, but really the only thing that matters is, are people getting better at this center, and are you an outcomes-driven program? Like, do you base your business on making sure that every client succeeds, or are you just filtering them back in? Like, do you not care if they relapse because you can bill their insurance account?
And then they're just in the recycling process and they're just milking the insurance or whatever.
Yeah, and that's why we started a social app that helps people find resources in their area, connect with people in recovery, and also tracks how their quality of life post-treatment.
Big things. You're on fire.
So it follows the client through halfway and even after halfway.
And anyone can use it too, not just clients. Anyone in recovery who needs support. There's an inventory tool, there's goal setting functionality, job opportunities.
So how do you monetize Warehab?
Yeah, so the website is not monetizable in an ethical practice. I don't believe it is. There's so many websites out there that monetize that through lead generation. For me, it just feels like a conflict of interest. I can't claim to provide an unbiased information and then charge you every time you get a phone call from our website.
Wow.
But what we are able to do is users create or monetizable in the sense that, like, when we have a social app, the more users we have, we are able to sell ad space or get marketing contracts with companies outside of the treatment industry.
Right, non-treatment
Yeah,
ads.
like for example, we have one right now with a company called TrueLink Financial, and they do Visa cards that block spending at bars and liquor stores. To me, that's something
That's pretty cool.
we completely believe in, right? Because it's helping people recover, and it's not a conflict of interest at all. So, like, that's how we monetize.
Let's explain that to the 5-year-olds out there like myself, because you had to explain this to me off camera. So what does that barcode mean? What's that? What is that?
Yeah, so TrueLink, it's basically a opportunity for the clients to receive money from their family, and then when they go to spend it, it blocks bars, liquor stores, casinos, online, ATMs.
So if I'm a parent in Pennsylvania and my child is in Miami in rehab, and I'm sending them a credit card, they can scan the barcode or whatever and make it so my kid can't go buy a bunch of bottles of liquor with the money I'm sending him.
It doesn't exactly work like that, but yes.
That's very nice. I'm sitting here thinking, does it block? What was the website? Seeking Arrangements.
Oh yeah.
You can choose whatever.
Oh, you can manipulate it to block certain things.
Yeah.
So if my kid's addicted to Cheetos, I can go, no,
Well,
you
not
can't
food,
have
but you
Cheetos
can
or some
walk any
whatever.
store that sells
Yeah.
Cheetos.
Or websites.
Yeah, or websites, or just online completely. You can also add a curfew. So those are the ways we monetize it, through marketing contracts with other companies and also providing alumni services to centers.
Very smart.
I think what you're doing is amazing. It's innovative. It's new. You're a pillar. What I see you doing a lot of other great things. You're organizing events. What kind of stuff gets you excited beyond work and your business and normal recovery?
Yeah, well, I mean, so like my business kind of is my passion, so it's fun for me. I love helping people. I do it for free. I just have to eat, right? And then just anything a normal 24-year-old would do. I'd love to travel. I like playing sports, going to concerts. Like, I used to think that if I got sober, there would no longer be fun. My life wouldn't be fun. But if I'm a fun person, I don't need drugs and alcohol to have fun. I just go have fun.
That's right.
And that's what it's about. Like, all the things I said I was gonna do, I actually go and do them now because I
It's
have
a hard thing for
motivation.
young
remember
people. Like young people in recovery, I'm remembering the first time I went to treatment, I think I was probably 19. But that's what you're thinking about. Like most of the clients at Debbie's treatment center, they're 18 to 27. And like that's the main thing. If they can see more Hanna Marks out there, I mean that's a big help because that's the ages now that come. Is that age group, and you think you're not going to have any more fun, your life is over, your money is a big part of it. I mean, most of that is about how they're going to make money, and
But Hanna Marks is
the
accessible.
fun is over.
Hannah, how do we?
Yeah.
How does it, the 17 to 27-year-old guy that's sitting there, a girl, and going, if I went to Walmart or watched a movie or went swimming, I had to be high or drunk. I don't know how to do anything and have fun sober. And he's saying that's why it's important we have people like you. And I couldn't agree with him more. We need more Hanna Marks. How are you accessible to that kid in rehab or that kid in halfway?
Yeah, I mean, you can download our app and communicate with other people in recovery. You can follow us on Facebook or Instagram. We're Hab. We're always posting, doing live videos.
But you're out in the community. You're doing a lot of big things. I mean, I went to an event that you had a couple weeks ago. There was a lot of people there. A lot, and I'd say out of maybe 50 people that were there the time that I was there, I might have known 3.
Yeah.
You being one of them. So like I met a lot of new people. And I'm married, I'm retired, I'm old. But if I was a young guy in recovering halfway, there would have been plenty of girls doing the right thing there that I could have met, other guys that I could have helped build a circle around. So there's stuff going on. So follow Hanna Marks on Facebook. That's how I know what she's doing. I was a guy that you had a lot more time than me, but I went, early on, this girl's doing things. I want to be around people like that, so some of that can wash off on me. So if she's doing stuff, I want to be in the middle of the action. I don't want to be on the outside. But I think what you're doing is amazing. Please, as we wrap up,
I would ask one more question.
Of course.
For somebody that's 24, that's any different than is the normal thing that's said about the whole couples in recovery type thing? I mean, that's like the hardest part of this whole thing.
Couples in recovery?
Yeah, is hooking up, and why you shouldn't, and how long should you wait?
Yeah,
especially when you're young.
Yeah.
Someone with long-term recovery.
Yeah.
That started early. 17 to 24, I mean, for a guy, isn't that like a guy's sexual prime? So what is that like? Yeah, that's a great question. What's your views on relationships and romance and stuff in recovery?
Or some tip to keep you out, some tip that you could hold on to so you don't get into one.
They used to tell the guys in my halfway that up every skirt is a slip. I don't know if it worked, but
It's the truth.
that sounds like the
I
term.
don't think anybody's ever not relapsed after getting in a relationship.
I mean, it
You're
happens,
first
but
early in recovery.
it's definitely the outlier. I just what I tell people that I mentor is you're not just dealing with your own life. You could potentially hurt someone that could lead to the relapse that kills them. And also, like, I didn't know what I wanted in early recovery. I'm still figuring out what I want. So do I want to start and get emotionally invested and feel the pain of a relationship if they could not even be the right person for me? So, like, before I can even be capable of loving someone else, I have to build that love within myself and really understand who I am as a person. That way I can show up completely in a relationship versus just using you like a drug to fill another void and then continuing that cycle and then either getting in a relationship that's unsuccessful and unhappy or like not ever really giving myself the opportunity to have a relationship with myself.
And wasting both of our times and potentially messing me up and messing yourself up.
Or going back to one. I'm sitting here thinking, even if you're married, you got to find some way, because it's even worse than if you're like a girlfriend or boyfriend hooking up. If you went to treatment, and even if you're married, you have to find some way to like not go back for a while emotionally.
When you say
that's
not
like
go
the
back.
biggest not go. If I'm married and I'm going to treatment and my life is that fucked up that I had to end up in treatment, you need to not go back to that relationship until
So you need a
that shit is
timeout.
clear.
Michael needs a timeout before he goes back to
I
the
would
relationship, you're thinking.
Speaking from experience,
Yeah.
that makes it a lot harder going to treatment if you're married or if you're already in, much less getting into a relationship. I mean, that part of it, I mean, look, for my sake, I was lucky because I already pretty much had, my wife had already known all of these things, and she wasn't really a addiction therapist at the time, but it was still, I shouldn't have went back there that early. I mean, thinking back on it now, part of the reasons that I didn't get this thing for a while is maybe because she let me come home when I...
Too soon.
I would definitely,
Hell yeah.
Disease doesn't just affect the person who picks up the drug, it affects the whole family.
It's a family disease,
And like, I mean, water seeks its own level, so...
Don't let them come home.
Yeah.
Well, it's like what you were saying. You went to you changed everything, but you went and had that. What we were talking about, Michael. You had that time out. You had to go to North Florida. Your sisters, thank God she was there. But you had to have that time out, Hannah, taking you away from everything you've known, and you need to work on you.
Exactly.
So that's what you guys encourage people to do now.
You're gonna have the rest of your life to deal with another person and to have a job and a career. Just take this time, and you're like so lucky you have this time to work on yourself and heal these wounds. Like, don't waste it on like a relationship that's not gonna last or stressing about your job. Just spend that time on healing what you need to heal.
Absolutely. And to the other part of it, I would say if you're the husband or the wife or the boyfriend or the girlfriend or the mother and the father, do not let them come home for at least 9 months. That would be my...
Well, I think it's important too.
What
are they coming home to?
Every time I came home early, that's why I never got this thing for a long time.
You didn't give yourself enough time.
Yeah.
But I think part of it too is what are you coming home to? If you two are married and she goes to rehab and you're at home waiting for her to come back, what if she coming back to the same home? That's not going to be good for her. She needs. That's why I think the home and the other person should prepare.
If nothing changes, nothing changes.
Right, because they're not changing. You're going back to the same marriage you had, even if she's not using and she's straight laced. It doesn't matter. Don't let them come home.
Well, it's like walking. It's like if we
For at
lose
least
power in
9
a
months.
hurricane and we open up the refrigerator and we smell something bad in the refrigerator and we shut the door and walk away. You got to open it and you got to clear that out, right? You got to work on the
You're
inside.
not prepared for an argument, and you're not prepared for emotional problems with your girlfriend or wife or husband until you're prepared.
Yeah.
And you go home early, the first shit that happens, an argument or whatever, first thing that's going to come into your mind is
Drugs
going
and
to get you
alcohol.
relapsed. Yeah.
Drugs and alcohol are your coping mechanism.
Yeah.
So I always say avoid as much conflict and circumstances as you can, because you're not going to have that same coping mechanism, and you're going to have to either you're going to learn a new one or you're going to pick up the old one.
And the other person is going to get manipulated by the husband who wants to come home, and you got to not listen to him. No, don't listen to a word he says.
He was that husband.
And
Listen
tell
to
us
him.
like
He's like,
9 months.
"Call
It's
me."
yeah. Don't let them come
Don't
home.
listen to me.
Because they're going to want to come home. They're going to manipulate you in any way they can to get back in the house. Even if they're sober. You got to wait. Truthfully.
Well, this has been an awesome discussion. Hanna, I want to thank you again for coming. I think that you're just a shining vessel of light. So I think we should make T-shirts, guys, that say "masturbation and meetings" for the first year, right? That's what we should.
No comment.
Meetings and masturbation.
No
It doesn't work, but you can say it all you want.
I think
There's
those
nobody's gonna
T-shirts
listen
would
to it.
sell. You know what I mean? Personally,
Well,
Yeah.
when I see them, people wearing them, I'll think of you.
I don't know how I feel about that, but thank you, Hanna. So thank you guys for tuning into another great interview on Second Act Podcast. Look out for her. She is on fire. She's doing big things. Look for WearHab. Download the app when it's available. Go to wearhab.com. That's WHEREHAB. It's more than just a normal app. It's an entire knowledge at your fingertips. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you, Hanna. And we'll see you next time. Second Act Podcast.